if you don't speak French, just imagine you're contesting for only 20% of all the jobs in France.
Is there such a thing as a work visa?
So if someone actually landed up with a CDI, they are pretty much sorted for a good bit of time.
If you're somebody that's considering getting your master's in France or are currently a student in France, it can be extremely overwhelming to think about your prospects after graduation. This is why I asked Devendra, who's a graduate from ISEC Paris, to break down for us all of the possibilities that exist after you graduate and all of the considerations that you need to keep in mind before you even make the decision to go to France. So without any further ado, I'll let him take it away. And in case you're wondering, yes, wearing the Argentina jersey was a conscious decision. Here we go. And actually, sorry, before we go, please do subscribe. Now, here we go. Say you've graduated. What does it look like for a general, we'll just stick to Indian international student in France that has, say, done an MBA or a master's, and to kind of inform them of the prospect after graduating. So, any light you can shed on that would be really helpful.
To start off, the one thing I would like to say to everyone who reaches out to me for this particular question is that it's very different from India in the sense there's no placements here. First questions that the Indian students always have is that how are the placements?
So what percentage of students got placed by day
what is
zero
the
or like
ROI?
whatever day?
What is the ROI? What are the placements? Here, the whole scene is very different. Don't expect your college to get you placed. This is not how it works here, and I'm sure in most of the other places apart from India, where the population is such that if you're in a creamy B school, you'll definitely be placed somewhere by the B school itself. But here, you have to do your own thing. The school can at best be your companion in your search. They can organize job fairs, career coaching sessions. They give you job fairs sometimes where you could go and speak to some of the company people, maybe give your CV. And even those things are for people who are proactive themselves. So one thing is the onus of getting a job is on you. It's not on the college. In India, the onus is on the college because if the college doesn't give you a 50 lakhs per annum package, it's on their own kind of credibility that they cannot place their students. Here, it's not the case. Their only job is to educate you and make you ready for the job world, but they don't help you find jobs. That's one basic difference. Having said that, people do find jobs, of course. I think 17 or 18 people came to France from my own batch. And the first thing that we do after the course is to get an internship, and the internship here is very important. So it was 6 months for most of us. I was lucky enough to get my internship within like 1 month of finishing my course. So I didn't have a long stretch where I had to look for it, but I've had people who had who searched for an internship for over 6 months. Having said that, people do get something if they are resilient enough. It's not easy here. I would not paint a picture that it's very easy for someone to come here and get a job, because again, if you don't speak French, just imagine you're contesting for only 20% of all the jobs in France. And there are enough applicants even for that. There are lots of international students. That you are only part of that 20% kind of applicants where you are relevant because you don't speak French. Rest 80% are reserved for people who only speak French and English both. So having said that, so it's difficult. Having said that, but people do get their internships and jobs, and for them as well. And having said that, there are people who are still kind of struggling in the sense that there's a contract called CDD, which is like a fixed term contract. It can be 6 months, it can be 1 year, it can be 2 years, and then basically you're unemployed after that time, and then you have to find another job. So there are some people who found those kind of contracts, which is CDD, compared to a CDI, which is like an indefinite contract which doesn't end. And if you have been doing that, I think once you get a CDI, it's one of the most kind of powerful contracts in the world, because in France, legally, technically speaking, they don't acknowledge at will employment. What it means is that you cannot just wake up one day and just fire someone. So just the process to fire someone is so kind of detailed, and it's so contested that it's not very easy for companies to fire you. So if someone actually landed up with a CDI, there's very high likeliness that they are pretty much sorted for a good bit of time, because they either have to prove that you are not worthy of, that your performance is very low, or you have disciplinary issues, or the company is in like deep financial distress. In the absence of these three kind of events, they cannot fire you.
Awesome. And then is there such a thing as a work visa? Because you said, and what prompts this question was you said about 20%, like you're limited to 20% of the jobs because of your probable non proficiency in French. So
Yeah.
in the US, the, I guess, cutoff factor, maybe not cutoff, but what shrinks the net a little bit is companies that are willing to sponsor international students. So is there such a criteria in France as well, or is it mostly any you can apply to any company out there that doesn't have to do that extra step of sponsoring your work visa? Is that a thing at all?
I think yes, there is of course sponsorship for visa.
Okay.
Sorry, but compared to all other countries, what I have like heard from people in the US, in the UK, it's way more simpler in France, in the sense that I have not met many companies who deny sponsorship of visas, because it's fairly simpler for them. But the visa I have right now, it's called Passeport Talent, which is like a talent passport for 4 years, and that entitles me to work in France for 4 years, and it's not linked to any company. The good part of it is that
Right.
in most countries,
Awesome.
like I actually was working with a firm in Canada, and they wanted me to move to Canada. One of the reasons I didn't move was because the visa I got there was linked to that company. So the day I part ways with the company, I'll have to find a new sponsor or leave the country. But in France, that's
Yeah.
not the case. If you get a passport talent visa, it's not linked to any company. It's your like work visa for 4 years. At the end of 4 years, if I don't have a company, of course I'll need another company to renew it.
Right, for sure.
There's another visa called European Blue Card, which is for 5 years, and that with that you can work anywhere in the Europe, not just in France, and you don't need a sponsorship. But these have salary thresholds. So the
Okay.
passport that I have had a salary threshold. So actually, I remember my salary was just around the threshold, so it had to be increased by like a fair bit, like a small bit, just to for
Just to
me to
match
be,
that, I
yeah,
see.
just to be for me to get that visa. And the European Blue Card has a higher salary threshold even than this. But in normal cases, you also get 1 year visas, which is if your salary is not even up to the 4 year 4 year visa mark.
Great direction in terms of if somebody wants to, listen up
Yeah,
to it here and then obviously go in and do their own research because yeah, this was not meant to be the amount of deep diving that we've already done. But
yeah.
yeah, thanks so much for that really insightful, really in detailed walkthrough about how the whole system works in general after you graduate.